fans. It's Zach Miller and Peter Hale. This is the Midtown Madness podcast. Pete, let's go ahead and kick things off with some show news. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
So Peter and I have been going back and forth, just kind of throwing ideas out for how to handle the off season. And I think for all of July and most of August, we're going to be releasing any episodes. Any episodes we release will be done on Wednesday. They'll be recorded mostly based on if we have enough to discuss and it's worth spending. And if we have an hour or more to talk about. The main reason, obviously, for moving it to Wednesday is that most off-season news is released on Mondays. And in order to be most relevant and timely with our discussion, Tuesday evening recordings seem most reasonable. So that's how things are going to go. We don't know when we'll start matriculating back. I would imagine sometime in August, but we still haven't really gotten to that. I know that men's soccer starts on the 14th, but I will be out of town that entire week. So, and then my birthday is that Sunday. Or no, sorry, that's August. Never mind. Not my birthday. But I'll just be coming back from vacation, so not sure if we'll record that Sunday or not. So, Pete, I think this is how like soccer teams always debut their new kits on the last game of the season. I
Right.
think we're gonna debut our new look. So if you're watching this on YouTube, we've got a new look, our new sponsor. Since in soccer they add the new sponsor to the new jersey, so we're gonna have our 2 men in a garden overlay on this episode. So I'm excited about that. But let's get into why people listen to us or watch us. Men's basketball. We've got some scheduling news, Pete.
Yeah, we've got a lot of scheduling news, and the biggest schedule news is that the A10 released its matchups. So this is not the dates; those are still to be announced. And normally we get the schedule late August, early September. But what they did announce was who our matchups would be, and SLU got a pretty tough conference slate here. Home and home games against Dayton, Davidson, Loyola, and VCU. And then we'll have home games against LaSalle, St. Bonaventure, Duquesne, George Mason, Rhode Island. And then we'll go on the road for one off games against Richmond, Fordham, UMass, St. Joe's, and GW. So Zach, what do you think here? I mean, this looks like a pretty tough conference lineup for us.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, thank God we got Davidson at least one time at home. If we would have had to go to Belk again, it's Belk, right?
Belk Arena, right?
Yeah. Is that named after like Belk, like the brand?
I believe so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I never put two and two together until just now. I'm glad, obviously, that we've got Davidson at home. I'd prefer not to go to Belk Arena though, Belk Gymnasium, because that ain't an arena. You can call it what you want, but it's not an arena. I'm really excited about this Loyola home and home though, and we figured this would happen. So I think we were all mentally prepared and excited for taking a trip up to Chicago or over to Chicago in your case.
Right.
For that matchup, I like the home and home. I think it maximizes interplay between the top, I'd say 5 teams or projected 5 teams in the conference. I'm not really all that sure where Loyola is going to be. Road only, I'll go with my home only. I mean, it's good. I think George Mason and LaSalle are probably the only two that really don't get me excited.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe the average fan doesn't get excited either about those two. Duquesne, we always seem to have fun matchups with. Dambrot's an unlikable guy. So you have that kind of storyline in there. Bonaventure, obviously, I think if we were closer in geographic proximity, Bonaventure would be our biggest natural rival in this conference. So I'm glad we got that as a home game. And, of course, we don't have to travel to Olean.
Right.
Um, the road only. I think I'm a little worried about UMass on the road, but it's gonna. I think that would be a quality game no matter what, given that UMass has added Frank Martin. Uh, GW is GW. You know, Richmond's reloading, so might be able to pick up a pseudo name win there. Um, Pete, what about you? No, I think they're going to be tired of hearing me after I went on that
No,
spiel.
not at all. So yeah, I mean, for getting back to your point about not just wanting to go back to Davidson as a one-off road game, we knew that with Loyola coming in, we couldn't count on like a flip of everything we did last season, right? Because for a while it seemed like if you played these teams at home, more or less kind of rotated, they might swap your home and homes occasionally. Um, but with Loyola coming in, that kind of changed how we had to schedule. So that was naturally going to throw some things off. I think going to the home and home pod here, those, I mean, that's a pretty strong argument that aside from SLU, those are the top four other teams coming into the conference this year. At least I think it might get picked in some order. Maybe sub out one. It just, I guess it depends on the poll you're going to look at, but Dayton has basically the exact same lineup, just with them swapped for us, obviously. And then Davidson has Fordham instead of Loyola. VCU has Richmond instead of Loyola. To me, this looks like the league telling Dayton and SLU, we think you're the best teams. We're going to give you the best possible chance at a stronger NCAA tournament profile. So don't blow it. Don't mess this up.
I, I,
Um,
I would be so interested to know if that actually goes, if that has any bearing on anything, or whether it's just dates and times and
yeah,
yeah, like
like it just happened to work out like that.
yeah. There's no way.
Well, I think Dayton and Loyola are going to just be pretty close to permanent home and homes for us. I think it would be madness for them to, even if one or two of the three of us are having down seasons, they have to keep those three Western teams, especially the two that are in the different time zone, SLU and Loyola. Dayton is the other team that's kind of out in the west of the conference, so to speak. I think you've got to keep those three teams together every year. So with SLU and Dayton being what looks like the top two teams coming into conference, yeah, I guess that one works out in our favor, right? I mean, if Dayton was undergoing a coaching change or SLU was or whatever, maybe it wouldn't look like that. But the fact that they also put VCU in there and Davidson in there, I don't know, that kind of makes me think like this is more, this maybe the schools wanted this, maybe this is the league trying to be a little bit smarter about making sure it's a multi-bid league, a three-bid league.
Is that
um
fair? Do we think?
I think so, yeah. I mean, if you don't like it,
No, I
be
mean,
better.
yeah, no, I agree. But is that? It's almost like a wrestling promoter setting up. I mean,
Yeah,
not. It's definitely not predetermined, right? But I mean, it feels like you're almost stacking. It's like I don't even know what to compare it to, but it feels like stacking the deck if the conference is playing a game of cards against the other conferences. Does that make sense? They're not
no,
stacking the deck for a single team. They're more or less stacking the deck for success of the conference.
yeah, they're giving themselves every shot to win the most, or to get as many tournament seeds as possible, because that's how these conferences make money. I mean, like they, it's in their best interest if SLU and Dayton both have the years, the kind of fringe top 25 team years that we're expected to have. And if they can get a third team, like if Davidson turns out to be a little bit better than some people think, or if VCU is marginally better than they were last year, or if one of the teams that had a coaching change has just the right mix of new players and transfers and can kind of sneak in, which kind of brings me to another point here, is we in Dayton have the hardest schedules in the conference based on last season's records and expectations of this year. Do you think this kind of opens things up for a sleeper team to kind of steal one of the top few spots here?
I think obviously, the sexy pick will be for sleeper will be George Mason.
Hmm.
People are super high on Kim English for no other reason that he's a young, energetic coach, and apparently a great basketball mind, according to people that know better than me, I guess.
Well, I mean,
I
he did have some big upsets, and he's got some guys coming back, some big players coming back.
Yeah, that's true. I think Davidson, as much as they are a perennial deal, I think it'll be interesting to see how they do with the coaching change, as you mentioned. Which I I figure it's not even in our notes. We may have missed it, but Davidson is going through a coaching change. You
Yeah,
know, but I mean, it's very much not really much of a transition.
right. The son Matt is taking over for Bob, and Matt's been an assistant there for what 14 years now, and he's the associate head coach. I think most people in Davidson think it's going to be a pretty seamless transition. I think it's going to be interesting to see how much he wants to kind of put his own stamp on things, and like, because as much as you learn under your dad and think he's great, and see how he's had success at this really small, academically rigorous, very tough school to compete athletically, he's been successful there. um to do it your own, well, like he's been sitting there watching his dad succeed there, but he's probably got a few of his own ideas as well. Like there are probably things where he'd go, I'd do that differently, I'd do that differently, and it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of manifests over time. But regardless, yes, Davidson lost three key players. um
Is Hung Jung Lee coming back?
no, he's gone.
Okay. Whew.
He's gone.
Woo.
Mike Jones, the guy who shot the
Who?
light, one of the guys who shot the last. I'm so glad he's gone for that reason. And then Luka Brakovic is gone as well. But they returned Foster Lawyer. Um, they return kind of their, like, 5 through 7 part of the rotation. They've got two really good transfers coming in. They've got a really good freshman coming in. I think they've kind of reloaded a little bit more than people realize. Like I think Lee might be kind of the toughest one to replace there in terms of the personnel coming in and out. But I think Davidson's easily a top 5 team again.
Yeah, I think I want to. My opinion on Davidson and the coaching changes how well. Obviously, McKillop will be able to recruit the younger McKillop, but how well will he teach?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think that is where we're going to see a potential drop or a potential elevation.
Yeah,
I think that's the thing because if he's still teaching his dad's system, is he as good as his dad?
right.
That's the question. Um, I, what the overall schedule is clearly now coming into focus for the Billikens, and it's got me. It's getting those excited, feelings that it's coming soon. Where is this schedule? What's the schedule looking like?
So I think we had discussed before, like we've known for a while that Memphis, Boise State, and Drake are coming in. I think Murray State and Evansville are both new additions to the home conference schedule since we last talked. I think, or maybe we just didn't hit those points that hard last time. And then on the road, we've got Auburn, Iona. We knew that. Carbondale, we thought was going to be a road game. Then for a while, it sounded like it was going to be a home game, but now it's Stu Durando reported that it would be a road game. We knew about the neutral event where we play Maryland and then either Miami or Providence. So that really just gives us about 5 games to be announced, probably if 2 of which are going to be exhibitions. I think we would expect at least 2 of the regular season games to be bye games at home, which gets you to, with the conference schedule, that gets you to 18 home games, which is a full load for season ticket holders. So that last game is kind of a wild card. I'm going to be interested to see what they do with that, because I'm fairly confident the other 4 will be 2 exhibitions and 2 bye games. But overall, this is looking like a great schedule.
Yeah, I mean, across all sports, it feels like the coaches are putting together gauntlet schedules. That I mean, and did I hear that Imani Bates may end up back at Memphis?
Um, I have not followed that
Yeah, I
closely.
haven't either. I see tweets every now and again, but
Yeah. I'll go check on that though.
and
Um,
some good you know opportunities for road trips too. Not necessarily road trips, but trips on the road. Um,
yeah,
that Auburn game, like we said, is going to be the
yeah.
weekend of the Iron Bowl, which will be in Tuscaloosa.
Right, right. So the game at Auburn won't be as tough to get to, and that's on a Sunday, the Sunday after Thanksgiving, which I know is a big travel day, but it's that's not the hardest trip from St. Louis. Carbondale, even if that's a weeknight, you're talking about a 2 hour drive each way there. Iona, unfortunately, is a weeknight, which is a little north of New York City. Um, but if anybody's in the New York area, that's not too tough to get up there in Westchester County. So I think that those are all doable. And then you've got on a weekend, it's a Saturday, Sunday, I believe, that we would play Maryland and then either Miami or Providence at the Mohegan Sun thing, um, whatever they're calling that event. I don't remember.
Um, let's talk a little bit of recruiting. Your wheelhouse, my weakness. Um, 2023 offer went out this past week. Who is it?
Yeah, this is Kenar Davis, a 6'6" wing out of Ashan, which is just a mile or two from SLU's campus. He plays his AAU ball for Mocan Elite, which is based in Kansas City. That's a big time program in the Nike EYBL circuit. Most people who follow recruiting have heard of that by now. A lot of St. Louis kids have gone out that way to play for them lately. He's a really nice looking wing. Loves to attack the basket. He can shoot it from outside. He's got some versatility. Looks like a nice player to build on, or nice skill set to build on, I should say. He does have 5 other offers right now: Missouri State, Indiana State, UIC, SEMO, Western Illinois. Still feels like we're in a little bit on the early side here. And it seems like we're getting serious about the guys who are at Vashon currently. Like it seems like Vashon has kind of a generational churn there. I mean, I mean, obviously an incredible program. And Davis is going to be a senior. He's already won 2 state titles there, averaged 14-8 last season. So it's nice to see SLU, still being involved with that program.
Yeah, it's interesting because we haven't had a Vashon player since Dwayne Polk, correct?
Well, Phil Russell we had for a
Phil
year.
Russell. Okay.
Yeah. Just for the year. And then he went down to SEMO, and he's doing great down there.
Yeah,
Um,
I think all of us were checking in on what Phil Russell was doing a few months ago.
wouldn't mind having him back up Yuri,
I
but
still wouldn't mind having
no,
him.
I think he'd be great on our roster right now. I wish he'd hung around, but you can't blame him for going down to SEMO and being able to run the show.
Um, who's the coach over at Vashon now? It's not Floyd.
Tony,
Tony Irons.
Tony Irons, yeah, yeah,
Okay, so a little Davidson esque uh,
yeah,
transition of coaches there.
yeah.
What about 2024? Let's look a little bit further into the future.
Yeah, so we've got a bunch of new offers out in this class, and I have to apologize on this first one because it happened back in mid-May, and I just completely missed it at the time. Christian Humphrey, he's got a hyphenated last name. I'm going to say the second half is Rembert. It looks like Rembert. He's out of Michigan, and he attends La Lumiere, which is like a national prep powerhouse up in northern Indiana. He plays his AAU ball for Indy Heat, which is also on the Nike EYBL. Kind of a lean 6'9" forward. He's playing over at La Lumiere for some more exposure. He's got a 7'1" wingspan, so he's got great length. He's athletic, great versatility at both ends, really, because he can switch and step out and shoot. On the other end, he can guard 3 positions. Really nice looking player. And he's said he wants to visit SLU soon, along with I think Pitt, Northwestern, and Cal are the other 3 he wants to go take a look at in the near future. So right now his other offers are Cal Poly, UC Santa Barbara, Southern Utah, Stony Brook, and NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Those those are his offers so far. So SLU and Cal are clearly the strongest ones there, but he's got a lot of really high level interest. So it's going to be interesting to see how things develop with him.
Kual Atak.
Yeah,
Did I get
that's
that?
it's got to be close. He's a 6'8" forward out of Haltom High School in Haltom City, Texas, and his name I think is Sudanese, and he's got that look, where he's really long and lean. And those guys younger on tend to be the kind of players who you think like, oh, they're okay, shot blocker, they're going to be a little raw, but then you watch him play and it's like, oh, he's a really good offensive player, confident shooter, good handles, good passing ability, sees the floor well, moves well. He's just a really unique looking player. That's kind of fun to watch on video because you don't quite expect him. You see just his frame, and it's easy to stereotype sometimes, like guys who kind of have a certain type of frame just play a certain way, and he's not that at all. His only other offer at this point is from Texas, Rio Grande Valley. But I think that's going to change pretty soon. I think he's gonna get a lot more offers.
I didn't even get to that point in the thing, and you just said Texas Rio Grande Valley, and I had to chuckle a little bit because like that was not a school I expected us to be like in on. So this must be one of those that Phil Forte thinks is a develop like is going to develop big time.
Yeah, I mean he's all over the Texas kids, and one thing I'll note about all of these offers, the ones I've already mentioned, the ones we're about to mention, it does seem like we're trying to get in a little bit early on some of these guys. Either, whether if they're a 2023 or 2024 player, we're trying to kind of be their best offer right now. And 2025, obviously they're really young, but it seems like we're trying to get in on these guys and really make inroads before they blow up.
I'd be really interested to get, and next time we have either Travis or Phil on, I would love to talk to them about when you offer these kids that are in 24, 25. I mean, what happens when you offer a kid and he just like, yeah, I'm in, like,
yeah. Yeah, is every offer immediately committable?
Yeah. I mean, is it like playing college hoops 2K? Like,
Yeah,
how does that work? I have no idea.
it's way more of an art than a science. Every kid's different. I think it would be the rare case where you actually get that. I think it may have happened kind of recently with a guy SLU offered named Brock Harding, who's a point guard, a small point guard out of the Quad Cities, and SLU would have on paper been his strongest offer, but then all of a sudden he committed to Iowa. So I wonder if that was one of those situations where Iowa had been recruiting him for a long time, but they never made that offer, at least publicly, and then all of a sudden he committed there, and without giving it like a top 5 or a top 10 or whatever.
It's my kind of guy.
Yeah, so I wonder if it was as soon as like that was the dream school, and as soon as they did it, boom, he was there. So I think it happens maybe a little bit, but I think most kids kind of want to wait and see what else is out there.
It looks like we're also active in the New Jersey area still. Maurice Vassell, tell me about this kid.
6'9" forward out of St. Benedict's, the Gray Bees, if you'll remember, that's where Madani Jada was from.
Well done.
Where he went. So yeah, that's program up in New Jersey. Plays his AU ball for Riverside Hawks, which is an Under Armour association program. He's originally from Kingston, Jamaica, living in the Bronx now. Long, athletic, skilled. He's a matchup problem, kind of like the other two guys we just talked about before. The really big upside here, and SLU is not necessarily early on this one. He does have offers from Illinois, St. John's, Texas A&M, TCU, Boston College, Georgia Tech, so some big schools. Got some A10 offers like Fordham, Bonaventure, LaSalle, and then a few others. St. Peter's, Stony Brook, Rutgers, Maryland. Some of these offers, actually, a lot of them came in the spring of 2021. So I do wonder if a lot of those are stale. Only a few of them have actually come this year. So I kind of wonder if he had one of those recruitments that was hot for a minute and kind of cooled down. And, some of these places have had coaching changes, but regardless, I mean, he's a really nice looking player. So it's clear that we're going after some front court players in the 2024 class.
Back to the Lone Star State, Josiah Mosley.
Yeah.
What do we know about this young man?
Yeah, he's an intriguing player. SLU is actually his first offer. And he's 2024, so it's yeah, we're early, but and he's arguably a late bloomer if he's getting his first offer right now, but it's not like he's going to be a senior. He's still just going to be a junior. He says he's 6'7". Most other scouting services say he's 6'6", but he plays kind of like a true power forward. He's from Stony Point High School in Round Rock, Texas. His AAU team is One Time Legends, which is Tracy McGrady's Adidas program. He's just a really tough, active, true power forward who rebounds like crazy. I mean, he's just a really strong rebounder. A lot of people call him undersized for a power forward, but he does have kind of long arms if you watch him, and it kind of has that frame that makes it look like he's probably going to grow a little bit more. Good hands, good touch. He really thrives in transition because he's pretty fast in the open court, and he can handle a little bit too. And there's no shortage of video of him dunking it. He's just a strong finisher. So he's kind of like a workhorse type four. And I think SLU might be betting that he's going to grow a little bit more. So they're going to try and get a relationship going here and hope he pans out.
Um, Looking further into the future, let's hop in the DeLorean and gas it up to 88 miles per hour. Hudson Greer, another. We're back in the. We're staying in the Lone Star State.
Yeah, and we're also kind of staying in the same position. He's 6'7". Like you said, he's 2025, so he's going to be a sophomore. He's young. And he plays more of a wing forward than a power forward, but he's really long. I would be shocked if he stops at 6'7". You can tell he's got a lot of frame to grow into. He's from Lake Travis High School in Austin. Plays his AAU ball for Southern Assault, which is an Adidas Three Stripes program. Big time scorer. I mean, he scored a ton as a freshman. He's got a really natural feel for the game. He, despite being so lanky, he's actually pretty smooth with his game. He's got a patient, mature game. Plays like, he doesn't play like a kid who's going to be a sophomore. He plays like a kid who's going to be a senior. Fluid, athletic, finishes, defends. I mean, he does a little bit of everything. His dad, Josh, actually played at St. Mary's. They I don't think it was an era where they were really strong, but he was a good 3-year starter there. So it's not surprising to hear that he's got a dad who played and probably has been working out with him, because he looks like he really knows what he's doing out there. His only other offers right now are Texas Tech and K-State. So high level offers this early usually indicate that a guy is going to be a big time player. And just the look of him on video, I think he's an easy 4-star. We're going to see him kind of in top 100, top 150 lists pretty soon, I think. So a lot of these 2025 players that SLU has offered or shown interest in so far have shown up on the initial class rankings as like top 25, top 50 players. So we're clearly good at identifying talent, and now it's going to be a question of if we can draw any of that 4-star, high 4-star talent to SLU.
Speaking of drawing talent to SLU, and people who may or may not be good at bringing that talent to SLU, we have still yet to hear about an assistant coach to replace Ray Giacoletti, or a director of basketball operations to replace Mike Wilson. Obviously, there was talk, Jack Raboyne, Brian Conklin was thrown out there. I know he's been jonesing hard to get into coaching, and especially at St. Louis University. Any word out there on the streets?
Not really, but the instead of word on the streets, I think kind of what people are noticing is who's in the background of some of our preseason workout videos.
Yeah, Brandon Courtney is in a lot of them.
Yeah, seems to still be hanging around. I wonder if there's maybe a grad assistant role there for him right now. And Christian Nunez is around in a lot of these videos, who is the existing director of player development. But it really makes you wonder if he's taking on a different role. So I'm not exactly saying that's what's going on here, but it seems like he's definitely got a role with the team. I haven't seen as much of our existing grad assistants, Roby, although I know he's still around, because he's given lessons to youth players and stuff like that. And I haven't seen Desagua around in the videos as much either. But
I'll
yeah,
pretend
again,
like I don't know that his serious girlfriend just moved out of state. And yeah, I'm pretending I don't know that. I don't know that at all.
yeah. So I don't know if we're like looking at these things like the Zapruder film and reading too much into preseason hype videos, or if we're onto something here. But it's definitely good fodder for the off season, I think, to kind of to look at these and want speculate what might be going on.
Uh, we had some good interaction on Twitter today with a poll we put out there. Pete, the genesis of this tweet was what?
Penn State announced that they were doing what they called a reseeding, and that's RESEATING, of their arena, which is to say they're moving who sits where to put the students along the sideline as opposed to the end, which will naturally displace, season ticket holders and whoever else had tickets in those good sections. And they think that'll kind of create more of an environment. I think it kind of makes sense for a program like Penn State that, it's a football school. They've never really been great at basketball, or at least not in my lifetime, it feels like. And to maybe draw a little more energy for a school that's huge, that shouldn't have too much trouble getting at least some students out to the game, enough to fill a few sections in the 100s. And, a school where maybe the alums won't be as upset to be moved, because it's not like it's their football tickets or something like that. So I think it might make sense at a place like Penn State. And I think you were wondering maybe is that something we could look at in Chaifetz?
Hey, that's that. I think that's been on my mind since even before Chaifetz was built. I thought it would be an interesting idea. The results of the poll were I found them interesting. We've got 53.5% yes, 46.5% no. Now, Pete, let's go. I'm gonna have you give Pete. I want to come up with a fun way to do this. It feels like should we read the response and kind of debunk that? Like we can do it both sides. We can play devil's advocate on everybody's opinion, right? So first one is what? First reason for yes.
So the first reason that we got for yes was the quote was, "I believe the relocation behind the benches would result in increased student involvement." Pretty straightforward.
Right. So what we're saying is the marketing it as you're sitting right courtside in seats that on the other side cost an arm and a leg, and you would get a much better view. Students would be closer together. Maybe they're, give a better experience for students. Students are more likely to show up to the game. Is that how you read it?
Yeah, it seems like it. It's one thing to go to knowing that you're sitting on plastic bleachers at the end, and it's another to know that you might have a cushy seat on the sideline.
Well, hold on. Now, my vision for this is that they replace those seats.
So they would actually change the seating type.
Correct.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
But it's a chicken. I think on a few of these there's chicken or the egg, and we put it on Twitter, in that, do we need the students to come out before we do this, right? And I don't know, because when you look at the amount of seats behind the benches and behind press row, it's 160 in the navy blue section for the first 5 rows. Add on, if you increase that to the royal blue on the ends of that part, it's probably 220. I didn't care to count individual seats because the navy I could just do math. but so you're looking at about 220. So right now the student section holds 1,000, right? That I believe that's what it's advertised as. So
Okay.
you would theoretically not need as many students to fill that section. And then the next yes reason.
So the next yes we got was I'm an out of town alum and fan. I'm so tired and embarrassed when I have friends over from watching a bunch of empty seats on TV behind the bench. These seats are probably corporate or generational that have low intensity fans. So he's saying basically they're corporate seats that companies buy up as season tickets, give them away to either employees or customers or vendors or whatever, and you wind up with a lot of no shows. And it's not a great look when the camera's panning back and forth and you've got all those empty navy blue seats behind the coaches.
Yeah, I think, and we'll actually get to the rebuttal of this argument or opinion in the no's. And with that being said, no, the first reason for no would be what?
I would if our student section attendance was more consistent.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think that student section attendance is, you know, um, it goes with the wins and losses. It feels like it always feels like we'll win a game, or we'll go on a bit of a run. We'll start getting big time numbers in, and then we'll lose a game, and then they're very fickle.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my thought on why student attendance isn't as consistent. And maybe that goes to, you know, it, maybe it goes to the experience, right? Sitting on the end, not as exciting as saying sitting in the first 5 rows.
Mm-hmm.
But second reason.
The second no is I'm all for it in theory because the students are the ones who create the atmosphere and deserve the best seats, but I'm not sure I'm for it in terms of execution, given given Chaifetz and our student body.
Pete, what do you think about that one?
So I think that's fair. I think it's a fair argument. It kind of builds on the first one, saying that the students are relatively inconsistent. I'm not sure exactly what the point is given Chaifetz. I don't know if they're saying like just
I think they're
the
talking
nature of the venue itself.
that's a very good point. I mean, is there a way that, instead of replacing the seats, you would just, because those are roll you can roll those up and back. So
Mhm,
I mean, there is a way where if you added some seats that you could roll in,
mhm.
that would, but then you would have to give up. You would automatically have to expand it all the way across because you cannot. Um, you can't just move. I don't think you can move just the mid ones back, the middle. You might be able to, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, but I don't know how many rows it is.
Yes, right,
Because they're able to move those back for other events. Like concerts where they want to open up more floor
right.
or anything that where they have to put out ice. uh Graduation, I know they move some of those back, but yeah, I don't know how many rows you can actually move back.
Yeah. Well, I just clicked the picture and. Yeah, it's cool. I just lost the picture that I was showing, but I know that the first 5 rows are the high roller
Okay.
seats. Um, and then go ahead and talk about the next one.
Yeah, so the next one is keep the few students we have together behind the basket.
I feel like this idea that we don't have a few students, like everyone always kind of feels like they exaggerate how bad student attendance is.
I think I wonder if a lot of these are coming from like season ticket holders who see all of like, students don't show up that much when we're playing you know, Arkansas Pine Bluff or somebody like that. Like
University
we
of
just
Texas
don't
Rio
have the
Grande Valley.
yeah, UTRGV, the Vaqueros are not going to fill the student section. They're just not. And then, I mean, naturally, you're also going to have there's winter break games. There's other holiday or long weekend games that they don't necessarily. there's only so many games that they're going to come out in full force, which I understand. They're like, I have some level of understanding for that. But saying the few students we have, I think makes things sound probably worse than they are.
Yeah, I think unless you want to say, unless they're actually talking about few students as in total enrollment,
Mm.
because that is kind of an issue. Because I mean, like you look at what is the enrollment? It's not a lot.
SLU's about 8,000 undergrad.
So
And then
you
it's 12 or 13 when you include the grad professional schools,
so you're
which
sitting at you so you're trying to get an eighth of the student body out to a game.
yeah, and I understand, like, and we talked about this on our SLU round
Yeah,
table. Yeah.
the sluts.
Yeah, that's right. I always forget what the words I love for it.
SLU
Think tank,
Twitter
this
think
the
tank.
SLU Twitter think tank. We talked about how culture is a really hard thing to build, and SLU just hasn't had that sustained culture. We've changed conferences, we've changed arenas, probably more than most schools. We finally have the ability to really build on that, and I think we're getting there. We're getting closer and closer. It takes so much time to build culture, and that's just something. I think we've come a long way since I've been there. Look, I know it's been over 15 years now since I've been there, but having an on-campus arena and a team that's at least pretty good, competitive every year lately has made a big difference. So that's the number one thing you just have to keep building on.
This next one's interesting, and I want to talk about the base premise of this one once you read it out.
All right. So this one is no, we have to bribe the students with food and gifts to get decent turnouts. Selfishly, I've been a loyal fan for years and paid thousands of dollars to sit in my seats. And now I would just give those up to sit in a lesser locations just so the students can have my seat and then not show up half the time. Nah.
All right. Uh, I will refrain from doxing this individual.
Yeah, everybody's anonymous.
Yeah. So, I look at like every team in sports does giveaways. Every team. It does not matter if you're Cardinals or you're the Mariners or you're the Lakers or who's the Charlotte Bobcats. I don't know. They're not even around anymore. But whatever. You get my point. I don't think people who use this understand that this happens everywhere. Everybody is offering students something to come to games. It's not just exclusive to SLU because our students are lame as hell.
Yeah, so I think this is one that you can, if you had a student body that comes out more consistently, like quite frankly, and I hate to say it, Dayton does draw more students to their home games. Yeah, I mean, and look, I don't think it's true about every home or about every conference team in the A10. I think some are a little more consistent than we are, but not everyone is. They still give their students stuff. There are sweeteners, there are incentives, there are it's I think the difference is when you have students that come out more consistently, it almost feels like reward. Like we're just maintaining that momentum. And whereas when you don't have students who come out as consistently, it seems like we're like a carrot stick kind of thing, like we're dangling an incentive. So I think it's pretty easy to spin the mentality of what it is based on how they're turning out.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
But I mean, I think there's something else in there that's important,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think this would be the only season ticket holder to say, I've been a loyal season ticket holder for a long time and I spend a lot of money on these tickets, and if I have to move, I'm not going to be happy.
Okay, so fair enough. If it's a complete reseating of the arena, right? Because that's what Penn State is doing. So let's say you take away the 5 rows on the sideline across from the hard camera. You then move them 5 rows back on above the 5 like you do the first 10 rows on the hard camera side. So that person is not only losing or not going to have to switch seats, but so is the corporation, right?
Hmm.
It's, I mean, you're gonna have move the corporations back to the next five, right? If a season ticket holder, you know, wants to, if a season ticket, if there's an individual person, you should separate, say the personal season tickets from the corporate season tickets, right? Let the personal season ticket holders see if they can't snag seat in the first five rows on the other side, then offer the next five rows the corporate people that were displaced from that left side, or do a lottery based on ticket usage.
Yeah.
Maybe you get
Yeah. I mean,
more.
everything's electronic. They know how many, they
Exactly.
know who's showing up and who's not.
Right. Exactly. Let's talk about tact in this next one, Pete.
Yeah. So okay, so this guy says, I think it would help the student support, but I think it would make the Chaifetz Arena look tackier. And he goes on a little bit to kind of explain, like, he just doesn't think it's aesthetically a good look. And so he finishes with, and while I'll say it would help in student support, I don't trust our students' involvement enough to make it worth it. So I think for him, the biggest diversion is aesthetics. Like, if all of a sudden we had 6 rows of bleachers all the way across one side or something, does that look dumb? Especially if it's not full every game.
Yeah, I think again it goes back to my point a little bit earlier about it being only 160 seats that are being displaced. I mean, I would venture to say that we get 160 students per game on non-break games.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
and if you and you're at the end of this, at the once we go through all these, I'm gonna give my opinion, and I think there's a nice um, there's an alternative I want to present at the end.
Hmm.
But yeah, I get the aesthetic point. I think if it is full, it looks a lot better. But being empty is certainly an issue there, and it
Yeah.
would be a massive issue for at least 2 games a year. Whether or not the cost benefit of deciding whether those 2 games you care or not, they're also
Right.
not really the most televised games, those 2 games a year usually.
Also true.
So, that kind of privilege is, let's talk about privilege, huh?
Yeah, that kind of privilege is earned. Is this argument, which I think again goes to the student. They just don't think the students come out enough already to have justified this upgrade.
And then the probably the main reason why SLU will never do this.
Yeah, and I saw a lot. I saw several replies, both on the forum and to us. Basically along the lines of, those corporate seats are expensive, and that amounts to, substantial revenue for SLU.
Yeah, I can see that. My only retort, and I said it already today, my guess is they would pay for those seats. My guess is not only are they corporate seats, but a lot of them are probably part of sponsorship packages.
Mm,
So if you made that first 10 rows instead of five on the other side, um, all inclusive, I don't think you would see much of a drop off as far as the sponsorship goes. Corporate tickets, that'd be interesting. But again, the no show rate is so insane that how many of them would really know a difference? Except you've got a
right.
couple people that get them all the time.
Yeah. Right.
Um, Pete, I'll get yours first because I'm sure I'll go on a long winded ramble.
Yeah. So my initial reaction to this, and I will admit, I'm squishy on this, right? Like, I could be persuaded one way or the other if I had more information, more data. How many seats are sold? What's the no-show rate? How many seats are sold in the 100s in general? Can people be moved within a reason? How much revenue would we be giving up? I mean, it's not like the seats are leaving the arena altogether. So there is more information gathering I would want to do. My initial reaction is no. I wouldn't do it yet, because I don't think I trust the students enough at this point. maybe that could change over time. I think there might be, I part of the reason the numbers would be so interesting to me is because I wonder how many things have changed over the COVID years. I know that most schools have had, seasons where a big numbers of season ticket holders suspended their season tickets for a season. Um, some people gave them up altogether and are either coming back or not. So I think there is maybe that happened in a big number in Penn State, and maybe they saw that as an opportunity, like, hey, we have enough room here to make this work. I don't know for sure, but I mean that could be a possibility at a lot of schools, that COVID is an opportunity to reseat your arena. So I still don't think that the trade-off is necessarily worth it. Uh, Part of it's interesting that the argument against, because we're sick of seeing empty seats behind the benches, and the argument is we're afraid we're going to see empty seats behind the benches. Like it does seem like more worth it to try something different that might actually fill those seats, rather than just accept, yeah, they're empty, but we make pretty good money off of them. I agree that there's got to be a way to fill those. The unfortunate thing here is it's not like student demand and season ticket holders / general public demand are inverted, are inversely related, inverse relationship, whatever. Demand is generally going to rise and fall at the same rate between them, right? Is SLU good? Are we playing an interesting opponent? It's the same factors that draw both students and the other people who are going to buy tickets to games. So it's unfortunate that there's not like a weird market dynamic that you can take advantage of there. So right now I'm a no, but I will admit to being a pretty soft no. And so what do you think here? I mean, you're the one who got this whole thing going, and I'm really curious to hear.
You're gonna be really surprised because I just decided. I will say this: I am a no. I am, however, saying that all things being equal, it actually makes more sense for the student section to be the first 5 rows along the base or along the sideline, because of the fact that you're decreasing the amount of area for which you need to fill, based on what we've seen as the demand for most games, in that 160 seats is easily filled by doing a giveaway every game easily, except for break, obviously. What I will say is I'm not sure that the way Chaifetz is set up and how much of a multi-purpose facility it is, it really works out that way or that well for it. I think the guy who says it looks tacky is probably on the right track, but a little bit maybe wonky on it. I think what I would like to see here is my alternative. I think that our student section is too damn big. Like I said earlier, we need 1 in 8 students to attend a game to fill the 1,000-seat student section. I would cut that down to 250 to 500 base level. And I would make it so that for every game you have to register for your ticket, right? You can do it online. You can maybe do it at the Chaifetz window. I don't know. And then 48 hours prior to the game, take a look at the numbers. You decide what seats, how many seats you think are going to be filled for that game. And then you sell the rest of those seats to as reserved bleacher seats. Put numbers on the seats. You sell them for $5 a piece. 48 hours out, you just run that promotion for the games that aren't going to be that well attended by students. That's what I think they should do, because I do think the student section is way too damn big.
So
I think a flex capacity student section on the end is the right move.
So a few other points there. The band, I guess, stays put where it is, who
Yeah.
sits next to the band? Do you put seats there, or do you leave that for the rest of the students? It's like for overflow,
Are you talking up top, up above the band?
or just right next to them?
Yeah, no. That's the student section still.
Okay, that's also
But
student
it's
section.
no. So the whole that whole area is used for student section, right? But you have a removable barricade that you, or whatever you want to call it, that says no student seating behind this point, right?
Gotcha.
So that way, because the problem is that quite often when we don't fill the student section, students don't automatically make their
Yeah,
way and just fill in,
yeah, they
right?
spread out.
Yeah, so I think that kills the atmosphere. I would really appreciate not seeing the athletes sit there on the athlete appreciation night or whatever it is,
Hmm.
because they don't bring the atmosphere. I'm sorry, like they just don't. It is what it is. On the whole, I should say, not as a broad generalization, they don't. But yeah, I would say make it flexible. So, you sell the tickets. Say you get 400 students sign up for tickets. So now you've got, you need 500 space for 500 students. You can set a barricade, at 500 or 600, and that way you can kind of condense that student section. They make a little more noise. They all follow the lead of the people that generally lead the chants.
Hmm.
And that's where I would get rid of that stupid freaking wedge too. I hate that damn thing. I hate it. It is pointless. Just put seats all the way across there. But
I did think of something else too. Though the seats that would be replaced on the sideline, I think those are wider chairs and wider armrests. So I don't think it's a true one-to-one seat
fair enough.
replacement.
Fair enough.
If you're
But
putting
I mean,
bleachers in, you
still.
could.
So
No, I guess what I'm saying is you would have more people. Like if
yeah.
that's say that's 100, if your numbers are right, that's 160 chairs.
Mhm.
That should be more like 200 bleacher seats or something like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah. So
just
maybe it's
just just
220.
just
Maybe
one thought.
220 even.
Yeah.
So man, my numbers may have been decently accurate either way. But yeah, I think it's a great debate. I'm really happy that people weighed in on it, and I did get a little mad online at points reading some responses because I generally like to think I know things, and
It it is an interesting subject though. I mean, we should always be looking to improve no matter what that means.
yes, and
And looking at the cost benefit of that. And yeah, I do like this subject.
I think I think I really do like my idea of a flexible student section, even though it
Yeah.
is my idea. Like I just think that it would it would increase the atmosphere. Anything to increase the atmosphere. I really, even if we can't increase student attendance, let's increase the atmosphere.
Right.
And by doing that, you don't displace season ticket holders. You might even be able to uh, uh, paper the town with the free tickets to the extra seats too.
Hmm.
That's one thing you could do as well. Instead of giving away reserve seats up in the rafters, so you get people closer, a better view. That, and can we please stop throwing the souvenir balls to like the people down low? Can we launch them further? Because those are the people you want to keep interested. Anyway, I really enjoy. I do really enjoy that discussion.
Yeah.
And kind of, I'm always thinking of out there ideas. So
Before we move on, I do have one. I want to circle back on one other note. Speaking of arenas, Belk Arena. So it's named after John C. Belk, but that does not appear to be like a true like naming. Sorry, it's John M. Belk, who
John
I
C is
believe.
another guy.
Yeah, yeah. John M. Belk Arena is technically the name, so it's not like the Belk company.
Right.
But as far as I can tell, that is John M. Belk, who ran that company. Like he's part of, I think he was the founder's son, if I have the history correct. Um, because Belk Incorporated was founded in North Carolina in the late 1800s. So it's not the company necessarily, but it's the guy. So just so we don't get notes.
Let's talk about sports in which we lead the nation in attendance. Men's soccer schedule was released. Pete, again, like I said earlier, gauntlet schedules.
It really is. I mean, we talked about women's soccer last time, and they like we said last time, it was great. I mean, there's no real off nights on their schedule. They have to bring it every game. And I think the men's schedule is pretty much right up there too. I mean, their first three non-conference games are against teams that played in last season's NCAA tournament. They start on the road at Louisville, then Lipscomb comes to SLU, and then they head to Creighton and their beautiful soccer stadium. So that's three tournament teams right out of the gate.
Uh, yeah, I may have to make the Creighton trip. I haven't been to
Yeah,
Omaha in a long time, and
I'd love to see a
I
game
need
there.
to get back to that. The bronze boot game. We have some unfortunate news. Uh, you know, I'm kind of annoyed by it.
This is one where we tweeted it out and we talked about it on a previous show and thought that everything was pretty solid, that this game would be kind of the first big game at Centene Stadium, the new MLS stadium in St. Louis, but that's not happening, and we don't have a good reason why. Um, just that the game will now be at SIUE and not at Centene. So unfortunate for the local soccer community that they're not gonna get that experience there. I mean, there's been some speculation that maybe there was a snag and not everything in the stadium will be ready in time. There was some speculation that they want their lower level team, St. Louis City 2 or whatever they call the farm club, that they want them to be the first game. I don't know what the reason is, and because I guess they never really put out an official announcement that the game was going to be there, it just kind of leaked. They don't really have to give a rebuttal or a reason why not, but it's I think it's a loss for the soccer community.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. This seems like one of those things where they were like, "Oh, maybe we should not do that and have our own
Mm.
little, have our own team play the first game there," which stinks. Let's talk about the non-conference schedule.
Yeah, so the other non-conference home games coming to SLU. So we've got UIC, SMU, Marquette, and then IUPUI comes to SLU, actually kind of in the middle of the A10 conference season, one of the last home games of the year. So again, great competition. UIC gave SLU fits last year. I think
Yeah,
that was a tie, if I remember
it
correctly,
was. I think it was
and
like
a lucky one at
UIC.
that.
Yeah, it really was. UIC, of course, has a historically good program, and
Yeah,
was where Jay Demerit played
yeah.
his college soccer.
We played up there, so they're coming back, and then we played down at SMU last year, so they're coming here. SMU is always a strong soccer program. Marquette is another one, always
Mm-hmm.
solid. So a lot of good stuff there too.
Um, there will be an exhibition at Missouri State on August 14th, and then the first home appearance will be against Omaha on August 20th.
Yeah, and it's worth remembering that Missouri State was outstanding last year. They were 10-0 in conference to win the Valley, and then they were 17-2 overall. They're a great team.
And I believe the Mavericks of University of Omaha are no longer coached by the former Billiken, whose name escapes me now. That he's no longer the head coach there, and it's not on the roster. But yeah, they have an interim head coach for this season. It looks like.
Huh. Was that Bob Warming? Was he the
No,
coach
it
there?
was. One second. Yes, it was Bob Warming, but
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so he still is the coach there, I believe.
It says they had an interim coach this last year or this
Huh.
coming year, but before that it was somebody else though. It was a former Billiken.
Well, Warming did coach at SLU from 97
Right?
to
No,
01.
yeah, no, I remember that. But
Um,
was it has it really been Bob Warming this whole time? Oh my God, I thought it was somebody else.
oh
Somebody
no,
started that program.
Jason Mims.
Yeah,
You're right,
Jason
Jason Mims.
Mims.
Yeah,
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 that was what was that?
yeah. So he graduated from SLU back in '99.
Right, but I'm not even seeing Jason Mims on staff as of like, or maybe it's not even.
Well, I think so. Warming took over for him like 4 years ago,
Okay, yeah,
and
2000.
then
Okay, yeah.
Mims has been coaching in club soccer ever
Oh,
since.
okay. So he went to
Yeah.
Kalish. He did the Kalish move.
Hmm.
Um, all right. Talk about the A10 schedule.
So the A10 schedule is actually kind of a tough one for SLU. Not quite to the level of the what they gave us home and home in basketball, but it's interesting because you don't play the whole conference. You get eight A10 games, 4 on the road and 4 at home. So you don't play every team. SLU this year will get the teams that finished second through fifth behind them in conference last year. So they're really playing what feels like the top third, top half of the conference for half of those games. So they've got VCU, Loyola, George Washington, and St. Joe's at home. They will travel to LaSalle, Rhode Island, Fordham, and Dayton. So like I said before, it's a pretty tough conference slate, given that reality. And then the other factor here is that Loyola, obviously not in conference last season, but they finished second in the Valley behind that outstanding Missouri State team last year. So this does feel like a pretty tough overall conference schedule.
Yeah, a lot of roster turnover on this Billiken team, and they're
Yeah.
going to have to put it together real quick in this non-conference schedule. Obviously, the end goal is always to win the A10. But what do you think going into the season with the amount of roster turnover and the gauntlet schedule?
Well, I mean, we talked to Kalish and we talked to each other a lot last year about this team's, uh, you know, they were coming into the season and during the season, they always touted their depth. So even though we had those kind of stars and all those draft picks in the MLS Super Draft, by the end of the year, Kalish always talked about how he had a full 10v10, great scrimmage, the ability to really scrimmage within their own squad and not have a huge drop off. So I think he's always seen it as kind of next man up, and he had a lot of guys leave early, and unfortunately a couple transfers as well. But I think they're fairly confident they're going to be favored to win this league again, with what they have and what they're bringing in. This should, I don't, I would be shocked if they were as good as they were last year. But I think the idea here is to put themselves not only in the position to win the conference, but if they don't win the conference tournament, to be in the mix for an at-large bid. And I think this is the kind of schedule that's going to do that for them.
Yeah, it's hard in the A10 to get that at-large bid, but I think the Billikens are certainly, historically anyway, in good position to do so. Moving over to volleyball, something we have not talked a lot about, and maybe because we haven't talked about it, we haven't yet talked about this news.
Yeah, so volleyball is going to be hosting the A10 tournament at Chaifetz Pavilion this season. It's November 18th to 20th. Like Zach said, this is not exactly breaking news, but it's just something we haven't talked about yet. It seems like kind of a big deal to be hosting a conference tournament. So Zach, I got to ask you, what's your updated prognostication for SLU's expected finish in volleyball this upcoming season? And does the fact that the schedule hasn't been released yet even make a difference?
No, it does not make a difference whatsoever. This is a 4-team league now. It was a 3-team league last year. Adding Loyola in is essentially akin to like adding Xavier back to the conference in volleyball. Maybe a little less because of, I mean, Xavier is always really, really good at volleyball. But the Missouri Valley is on par with the A10 in volleyball, or better. We always seem to struggle with some of these Missouri Valley teams in the non-conference schedule. I think what you're looking at is Dayton, the favorite to win. I think Loyola would probably be second, and then VCU and SLU fighting it out for third and fourth. And then whatever pile of shit the rest of the conference does is irrelevant.
Yeah, SLU's been, it seems like pretty consistently that third team. Kind of a distant third behind Dayton and VCU, but kind of a distant third above the rest of the conference as well.
It's like an ice cream sandwich of annoyance. I mean, like, it's I could coach this team to a third place finish. Anybody could. You give me that talent. I don't know shit about volleyball. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I don't get it. Whatever.
I'm surprised you have any thoughts on this. That was really unexpected.
I know. Imagine that. Pete, 255 SLU athletes were named to the A10 honor roll this year. Just 4 shy of the school record of 259. To make the conference honor roll, they need a GPA of 3.0 or better, which is much better than I ever did. 183 of SLU's 255 had a 3.5 or better, which is a GPA I never achieved at any point at SLU. And 31 of them had a perfect 4.0 this year. Peter, let's go ahead and name all of them in alphabetical order.
Yeah, I just took a big drink of water for this. Yeah, here we go. Ahmed, Firol, Alvarez, Chris.
I'm obviously kidding, but congratulations to the 255 SLU athletes that did much better in the classroom than myself.
Yeah, that's really impressive. I mean, if their all-time record is 259, they basically matched that this year. So that's pretty great. So way to get it done in the classroom.
Who's your favorite Billiken basketball player to make the A10 honor roll?
Favorite to make it? Are you?
I mean,
are you saying favorite to make who made it this past season, or favorite to make it again this year?
All time. Just who's your favorite Billiken? I mean, it's Paul Eckerly. That's the only one I know for sure. 100% made the A10 honor roll. It's the only one I could guess.
Yeah. I think that's fair to say. In my era, we had Ross Varner, who graduated with a perfect 4.0. He was a really impressive guy. He spoke 4 languages, and when he graduated, he had a company already lined up who wanted him to work for them, and they were going to pay his way to either Harvard or Stanford for his MBA, and he got into both. Because those are the 2 schools he applied to and got into, and he wound up going to Stanford. And I haven't kept up with him. I don't know what he's up to these days, but I remember, like, when he graduated, it was kind of like, you're gonna have a pretty good life here, buddy. So yeah, he was the guy in my era that was just an incredible student.
Ross Varner, risk finance data operations leader, is in Lehi, Utah.
Yeah, where he's from. He's from Holiday, Utah.
It looks like it's Zion's Bancorp.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if that's the same company or not. Are you looking at his LinkedIn or something?
Yes, I am. He's been there for 13 years and 2 months.
Okay, so not the whole time.
Before that, I can't believe we're going down Ross Varner's LinkedIn. No, wow. Good Lord.
Yeah. Oh wait.
He started at BYU. Too.
Yeah. Well, it looks like he went to the Wharton School after BYU. Okay, so maybe he didn't wind up going to the schools.
No, that was later. That was 2018.
Yeah. So okay, got it. So maybe he did wind up going to BYU after all. At the time, I remember him saying he had gotten into Harvard and Stanford, and that somebody was going to pay for it. It was just kind of like,
what
okay,
an absolute flex.
But yeah, I mean, like, also what a good Mormon too, to go to BYU instead of Harvard or Stanford. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
I now know who I want next on the podcast.
I bet he would do it. He's the nicest guy in the world, man. Such a good dude.
Oh, I believe
that. But yeah, I'm outing him as a 4.0 student on a team where I think he was one of a kind.
Well, Pete, This was kind of a fun, free-flowing episode, it felt like. But it wraps up the last 2 weeks that were in Billiken Athletics. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at MidtownMadPod, at Peter is a tweeter, at Zach Miller MMP, and on Instagram at MidtownMadPod. We always appreciate any suggestions you may have for the show, so drop us a DM if you have anything you think we could be doing better or worse. Please go subscribe to the show on all platforms. If you haven't left a review, please do so. Drop us 5 stars. And you know, if you got constructive criticism in that review, that's great too. But keep it 5 stars. As always, Pete, go Bills.
Go Bills.